Wednesday, 15th April 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum on NTV from 7 p.m. It shall take a peek into how COVID-19 has changed the world, the family, the individual, and life as we all have known it.
This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the globe. But I don't believe that it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome.
Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Unaimba poa. You have a very beautiful voice.
Oh, stop it.
Huyu mboch ni wangu wa kufanya kazi zangu.
Give me through past one of your friends.
You have to take care of yourself. How about online dating?
Nikusaidie aje? Sasa nilikuwa nataka unisaidie kutoa wimbo.
This must be the lovely lady.
Niko hapa nje yote nilikuwa umesema.
Where?
Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures, especially for us who major in shaking hands or even taking a high five. We have to find an alternative to doing this. And in fact, the most effective way is doing this. Wash your hands constantly with soap and running water, because we are told the most effective way is to drown the germs as you wash your hands thoroughly.
I am coming for you.
Unaimba poa. You have a very beautiful voice.
Oh, stop it.
Huyu mboch ni wangu wa kufanya kazi zangu.
Give me through past one of your friends.
You have to take care of yourself. How about online dating?
Nikusaidie aje? Sasa nilikuwa nataka unisaidie kutoa wimbo.
This must be the lovely lady.
Niko hapa nje yote nilikuwa umesema.
Where?
So the young ones are at home, and well, we know how that can go. Don't worry, we've got you. NTV brings you loads of fun and exciting shows for them to watch, keeping them busy as well as making them learn. Tune in weekdays morning and 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7:30 a.m. for the best kids shows yet. Watch NTV live on TV or online on ntv.nation.co.ke or download the Nation app and get your kiddie fix across all these platforms. NTV, turning on your kiddies' world.
Akili, 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 akili. Let's chase the germs away. Let's chase the germs away by keeping our hands clean. And when you want to sneeze or when you want to cough, do it in your elbow. Let's practice sneezing into your elbow. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Achoo! Again. Achoo! Yay! You did it! Germs, germs, germs. They make us sick. Germs, germs, germs are not our friends. Germs, germs, germs. They make us sick. Germs, germs, germs. Germs, germs, germs are not your friends.
Now more than ever, you need to be abreast with the daily happenings wherever you are. Get the Daily Nation e-paper with a free COVID-19 newsletter at a special highly discounted rate of Kenya shillings 500. for a period of 1 month. Daily Nation. News anytime, anywhere.
In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, life is increasingly becoming tough.
Njaa ndio itatuua wengine, hata si corona.
Nilitoka kazi, kapata landlord amenikatia mlango.
Massive job losses.
Tumesimamishwa kazi.
Mzee amesimamishwa jobs. Business is slowing down or worse, shutting down.
Kazi haiko sasa, lakini sasa ni kuzunguka tu nikitafuta polepole hata angalau kama naweza pata kama 20 nikule.
Mimi saa hii nipate 200. Naweza nunua chakula. Ukinunua sanitizer na ununue mask, sio pesa itakuwa imeisha.
My name is Colin Zinjera, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish my fellow Kenyans peace and safety during this difficult time as we fight the coronavirus pandemic. Please do follow the instructions given by our President, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and the Ministry of Health as we combat the pandemic. Wash your hands thoroughly with soap and clean running water, or use sanitizers where necessary. Keep your environment clean. Stay at home and avoid unnecessary movement. Take the necessary precautions to keep yourself and your family safe. And to my fellow athletes, if necessary, do train in isolation and keep safe. We shall overcome this pandemic. God bless you and God bless Kenya.
Wherever you are, you can still stay updated daily. Get your favorite paper delivered to you. For home or office delivery, contact us on 0719 038 062 or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Daily Nation, the truth.
The best part of an adventure was sharing it with people you love. We are going to have the best time. I made a summer fun list.
Whoa, that's a lot of fun.
I'm gonna go snorkeling. I just invented a new sport. #SistersRock.
Hi, my name is Victor Nyama. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all my fellow Kenyans peace and safety during this difficult time as we fight the coronavirus pandemic. Please follow the instructions given by the Ministry of Health as we fight this pandemic. Wash your hands thoroughly with running water and soap, or use sanitizers where necessary. Keep your environment clean. Stay at home, avoid unnecessary movement. Take the necessary precautions to keep yourself and the family safe. To my fellow athletes, please train in isolation and take the necessary precautions. We shall overcome this pandemic. May God bless you all, and God bless Kenya.
Mind-blowing music and entertainment. Just move to NTV.
East Africa is transforming. And so are we. We're now more diverse, more visual, more engaging. Grab a copy of the new East African. To subscribe, email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com or e-paper@ke.nationmedia.com.
Japo njia bora zaidi ya kuhakikisha usafi wa mikono ni kutumia maji na sabuni, katika baadhi ya sehemu wameweka mchanganyiko huu maalum wa kutoa uchafu maarufu sanitizer, na tunahimizwa kila tunapotumia tuhakikishe kwamba sehemu zote za mkono zimeupata mchanganyiko huo kwa kufanya hivi kwa takriban sekunde 20 hivi, na tuhimizane wenyewe kwa wenyewe kufanya usafi, manake wapo mwenzako hatafanya usafi basi anakutia wewe hatarini.
I am coming for you.
So unaimba poa. You have a very beautiful voice.
Oh, stop it.
Huyu mboch ni wangu wa kufanya kazi zangu.
Give me through past one of your friends.
You have to take care of yourself. How about online dating?
Nikusaidia aje? Sasa nilikuwa nataka unisaidie kutoa wimbo.
This must be the lovely lady.
Niko hapa nje yote nilikuwa umesema.
Where?
My name is Eli Kuchoke. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all my fellow Kenyans peace and safety during these difficult times as we fight the coronavirus pandemic. Take the necessary precautions to keep yourself and your family safe. To my fellow athletes, please train in isolation and take necessary precautions. We shall overcome this pandemic. May God bless you and God bless Kenya.
So the young ones are at home, and well, we know how that can go. Don't worry, we've got you. NTV brings you loads of fun and exciting shows for them to watch, keeping them busy as well as making them learn. Tune in weekdays morning and 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7:30 a.m. for the best kids shows yet. Watch NTV live on TV or online on ntv.nation.co.ke or download the Nation app and get your kiddie fix across all these platforms. NTV, turning on your kiddies' world.
Economies are faltering. The skies are empty. Borders are closed. The streets are deserted. Schools have been halted. And what was referred to as work has everyone staying at home and figuring out how to make it work. We are all at risk, and the health of your neighbor is not only dependent on you, but your life or death could also be in their hands. On Wednesday, 15th April 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum on NTV from 7 p.m. It shall take a peek into how COVID-19 has changed the world, the family, the individual, and life as we all have known it.
This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the globe. But I don't believe that it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome.
Nation Leadership Forum, engaging society, impacting the nation.
Japo njia bora zaidi ya kuhakikisha usafi wa mikono ni kutumia maji na sabuni, katika baadhi ya sehemu wameweka mchanganyiko huu maalum wa kutoa uchafu maarufu sanitizer, na tunahimizwa kila tunapotumia tuhakikishe kwamba sehemu zote za mkono zimeupata mchanganyiko huo kwa kufanya hivi kwa takriban sekunde 20 hivi, na tuhimizane wenyewe kwa wenyewe kufanya usafi, manake wapo mwenzako hatafanya usafi basi anakutia wewe hatarini.
The best part of an adventure was sharing it with people you love. We are going to have the best time. I made a summer fun list.
Whoa, that's a lot of fun.
I'm gonna go snorkeling. I just invented a new sport. Hashtag Sisters Rock.
Wherever you are, you can still stay updated daily. Get your favorite paper delivered to you. For home or office delivery, contact us on 0719 038 062 or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Daily Nation, the truth.
In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, life is increasingly becoming tough.
Njaa ndio itatuua wengine, hata si corona.
Nilitoka kazi, kapata landlord amenikatia mlango.
massive job losses.
Tumesimamishwa kazi. Mzee amesimamishwa jobs.
Business is slowing down or worse, shutting down.
Kazi haiko sasa, lakini sasa ni kuzunguka tu nikitafuta polepole, hata angalau kama naweza pata kama 20 ni kule.
Mimi saa hii nipate 200, naweza nunua chakula. Ukinunua sanitizer na ununue mask, sio pesa itakuwa imeisha.
This is NTV.
Hello East Africa, good morning and thank you for staying with NTV. My name is Joseph Warungu and this Easter Monday morning we usher you into a new world. The world as we knew it has been shaken up by COVID-19. On a normal Easter Monday, like today, you'd probably be preparing to travel back from our country or wherever you'd gone to spend the Easter break. You'd also probably be busy saying goodbye to friends and family. But no, you're stuck at home with no clue as to when things will return to normal. Lockdowns, isolation, quarantine, curfew and containment are the new reality. Well, to help you as you adjust to the new normal, we're introducing a new program that will focus on your health and well-being. It's called Your World because it focuses on your changing world. We'll bring you views and experiences from the East African region and the world at large as the globe adjusts to the new normal. So join us from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday as we share ideas from around the world and also hear from your world. Well, here's what we have in store for you in the premiere edition of Your World.
Have bipolar disorder, living with this condition, then we have to be really keen on the triggers.
Our mental health has not been taken into consideration at all.
And there will be more. Obviously, we also have guests in the studio who will be joining us from different places. We've got our correspondents in Tanzania. We've got on standby Tulanana Bohela, ready to join us in a moment. And we also have got from Uganda, Walter Musije, who will be joining us. So today our main theme, high-level sanitation there, as you can see. And in India, drones have also been in action. We also look at the unique way a Ugandan journalist is covering the corona updates. Hello, people are getting rather creative too during the lockdown. First, let's give you an update on the situation of COVID-19 pandemic here in Kenya, East Africa, and around the world. Now, the situation in Kenya is that we have 7,459 people who have been tested so far. 197 have been confirmed as COVID-19 positive. We have 8 people who've so far sadly passed on, and 25 have recovered. And if we can just quickly look at the other countries in East Africa, let's look at Uganda. And this, if I can get my screen to work. Yes, Uganda, we've got 53 people confirmed. No one has died so far, thank God. We've got 4 people who've actually recovered. In Rwanda, the situation is that 120 people have been confirmed as COVID positive and 18 have recovered. In Burundi, the situation too is that 5 people have been confirmed as positive. No one has been reported dead so far. No one has been reported to have recovered. That's the situation broadly around East Africa is at this morning, courtesy of the Nation Newsplex. Now, Easter is the high point of the Christian year, and yet millions of believers across the world will spend it, or have spent it actually, separated from their ministers, their temples, and their liturgies. With a strict lockdown imposed over the spread of the novel coronavirus, Palm Sunday was observed within closed doors in the city. Pope Francis celebrated Easter Mass in Rome in a nearly empty St. Peter's Basilica instead of the huge square outside. And instead of presiding over the way of the cross procession, Pope Francis led the ceremony in St. Peter's Square without the public. The Vatican has been closed to visitors for a month, and the 83-year-old pontiff, beloved for breaking the stuffy customs and mingling with the people, has complained of feeling caged. The pontiff said a prayer for the dozens of priests and health workers who've died across Italy while attending to the sick since the outbreak started in February. And Panama's Archbishop Jose Domingo takes to the skies to deliver the traditional Catholic Palm Sunday blessing from a helicopter after the coronavirus pandemic forced the closure of churches across the country. Easter this year has surely been quite different. Even in Kenya, Uhuru Park this year was mainly empty. This is the effect of the coronavirus here. As you can see, no one really in sight. There will be crowds at this moment, but as you can see, it was all completely empty. But we commend you too for staying away, hard as it may be. It's really what we need to do. Wash our hands, keep away from the crowds, stay at home. Now, I'm joined to give us a picture of what's going on, not just in Kenya, but around East Africa by our correspondents from the region. In Uganda, in Kampala, Uganda, we'll be joined by Walter Mwesije, who is the NTV Uganda correspondent for us. And in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, we're also joined by Tulanana Bohela. We'll also give you pictures and the situation in different parts of the globe as well. In the studio too, we've got a guest who will be joining me shortly. She's Gadoni Mbogwa. She's a clinical psychologist from the Chiromo Medical Lane Center. But first, let's start with the picture in the region. Let me come first of all to you, Walter, in Uganda, in Kampala. Just give us a sense of what Kampala feels like this Easter Monday morning from where you are.
Good morning, Joseph, and we are indeed coming to you live from our newsroom here in Kampala, the Kampala Serena Conference Center. And just like you mentioned, you know, all around the world, cities are really looking like, you know, you would say ghost cities, because as of today in Kampala, there is still, you know, very little movement, even when the curfew actually ends today. But of course, that is an announcement that is expected to be, officially made by the president on the way forward. And what we know of now is that there is a cabinet meeting that will, take place today at the State House, where then they will, come up with the way forward on how to, proceed after the 14-day curfew, which actually ends today. Now, this curfew also, comes hand in hand with the ban on public transport, which actually expired, some few days before today. And the Minister for Transport said, it would really not make any sense if we have a curfew and then, we let the public transporters continue business as usual. So really, that's a decision that we are waiting to hear from the cabinet sitting today. But as of today, we have 54 confirmed cases. You said 53 earlier, but last night there was, one confirmed case. And we have, for now, 36 active cases. The reason is that 18 have recovered, and 4 of these 18 were actually discharged on Saturday, and 14 more could probably be discharged today, according to the Minister for Health, Dr. Jane Acheng. We haven't had any deaths so far in the country, and we have, had about 5,025 samples tested countrywide, and this is where these cases have, arisen. And as of now, we have 244 individuals under institutional quarantine. Now, on Saturday, the Ministry of Health also, you would say, let free some of the people they had been, holding under quarantine, institutional quarantine in different places, and these were over 200. Yeah.
Okay, Walter, stay on the line. I'll come back to you in a second. Let me cross over to Tanzania, to Tulanana Bohela. What can you tell us about the situation in Tanzania this morning, Tulanana?
Well, just was a pretty somber Easter holiday, but unlike two nations, we haven't had much restriction on movement. People are deciding to self-isolate themselves or restrict their movements by themselves. We haven't gone into any strict lockdown as of yet. However, as I said, many people are taking it upon themselves to, we've seen meetings get cancelled, conferences as well get cancelled, and a lot of public buildings and spaces now have sanitizers or buckets of chlorine, water, soap for washing their hands. As of yesterday, we've seen, for instance, the Tanzanian aviation authorities announced that there'll be a suspension of all international flights to the eastern, to Tanzania because of the pandemic. The Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority said that cargo flights will be allowed, but crew members will be quarantined and designated places by the government. Just before the Easter holidays as well, we've seen the Minister of Health, Umi Mwalimu, talk to religious leaders here in Dar es Salaam and said that these coming 2 weeks, starting from today, seeing that there will be the Easter as well as Ramadan, are going to be very critical to applying stricter measures, because now we've moved from the disease coming from international coming into local transmission. So at any one point, the government will be giving guidelines and making sure that everybody, when they're moving about or going into places with lots of movement, have to wear masks.
Okay, Tulanana, thank you very much indeed for that update. Stay with us. We'll come back for a bit more from Tanzania and Dar es Salaam. But first, let's head back to Uganda and time to look at a little bit of a detour. Now, Uganda's daily monitor photojournalist Tuhaire Kelvin is making good use of his bike to get citizens news and photos. Many of Uganda's journalists are working remotely. So, Walter, how well are Ugandans obeying or adhering to the lockdown or indeed the restrictions on their movements?
Enforcement really of the lockdown and the curfew hours that was set by the president. But of course, you will not miss 1 or 2 or 3 many people who will be, walking around even past time. And our curfew here begins at 7 p.m. But of course, we've seen security agencies and forces that are enforcing this curfew, arresting, several people, hundreds of people every day, each and every day, people who are not adhering to, the lockdown. And of course, this now also prompted the president to actually, completely stop movements by some of the means of transportation that he had, given an extension, for example, borders and people with bicycles. So these were allowed initially to, continue until curfew time. But of course, when he received information that, people are violating the curfew time, he put, a much stringent restriction, and he said anybody with a motorbike or, a motorcycle or a bicycle should not be moving after 2 p.m. So that's, more than 4 hours less than the time that he had set initially. But we see people moving every day, and the president was actually also, interested in finding out what actually people are moving to look for in the city, and he tasked his team to, carry out a simple survey and ask these people who are walking to the city every day, where are they going? But of course, we know that many people who are walking to the city actually still looking for what to eat every day. These are the people which the government termed as vulnerable people who, work to feed on a daily basis, And, these we still see them around town. And that's the situation here in Kampala.
Walter, thank you. Stay with us. And for you watching us at home, watching A New World, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the issues we're tackling? What challenges are you going through at home in a restricted environment, not able to move around perhaps? Let us know. You can use any of the social media platforms to reach us. We are #NewNormal. You can reach us on that. And you can also contact us via our normal WhatsApp telephone line, which will show on your screen shortly. We'd like to hear from you and know what you're thinking, what you're going through, what challenges you're facing, and what more you'd like to hear from us as we look at different ways in which your world and my world are changing. Now, Tulanana, let me come back to you. When I look at the picture in East Africa, Kenya has enforced a curfew, restricted movements, especially between some of the counties. Uganda has gone for a lockdown. Tanzania has been rather liberal in its approach to. What's the reason for this? They've not been as hard as the other East African nations. What's the reason for this?
Well, frankly, from the reasoning that we've seen come from the government and from the president themselves, saying that the numbers are not, they have the situation under control. They want to try a different approach and not spread panic. We've seen from the very beginning, even before the first case arrived in the country, the public was sensitized very much upon already practicing social distancing and putting the measures such as the bucket water in front of their buildings so that people can wash their hands. And so this approach is more geared towards people taking the measures themselves first before going into a stricter lockdown. But as I said earlier, in these 2 coming weeks, as the Minister of Health had mentioned just last week, speaking to religious leaders, these 2 next weeks are very critical to the country because this is when a lot of movement is expected. We've had the Easter holidays. We're expecting Ramadan, which is a very big holiday here as well. And so this is kind of like the testing, the litmus test that we'll see whether or not the stricter lockdown, we will be joining the other countries in the region with lockdowns and curfews.
And just briefly, Tulanana, you talk about social distancing, but some of the photographs and images we see from Tanzania in churches, for example, people packed, seated very close to one another. Has the message really sunk in about what people need to do about social distancing, which means keeping at least a meter or 2 apart from your neighbor?
Yeah, so it's the message. Well, it depends on the region that you're from. In Dar es Salaam, for instance, this is where most of the cases have been found. This is where the messaging has kind of sunk in for a lot of people, but it hasn't as yet for the entire country. Many people still have the belief that the disease is a foreign disease. It's just coming from outside. So if I've not been on a plane or I have not interacted with somebody from outside, then I am fine. And so it's still the message or the impact of the pandemic. It's still slowly sinking in for a lot of people, especially those who are in the regions outside of Dar es Salaam. We've seen cases here in Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, and one in Arusha and one in Kagera, which is in the northwestern part of the country. So just as yet, people are still adjusting to the news of COVID-19.
Okay, Tulanana, thank you very much indeed for that update live from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. We're going to take a short break now.
So the young ones are at home, and well, we know how that can go. Don't worry, we've got you. NTV brings you loads of fun and exciting shows for them to watch, keeping them busy as well as making them learn. Tune in weekdays morning and 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7:30 a.m. for the best kids shows yet. Watch NTV live on TV or online on ntv.nation.co.ke or download the Nation app and get your kiddie fix across all these platforms. NTV, turning on your kiddies' world.
Economies are faltering. The skies are empty. Borders are closed. The streets are deserted. Schools have been halted. And what was referred to as work has everyone staying at home and figuring out how to make it work. We are all at risk, and the health of your neighbor is not only dependent on you, but your life or death could also be in their hands. On Wednesday, 15th April 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum on NTV from 7 p.m. It shall take a peek into how COVID-19 has changed the world, the family, the individual, and life as we all have known it.
This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the globe, but I don't believe that it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome.
Nation Leadership Forum, engaging society, impacting the nation.
In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, life is increasingly becoming tough.
Njaa ndio itatuua wengine, hata si corona.
Nilitoka kazi, kapata landlord amenikatia mlango.
Massive job losses.
Tumesimamishwa kazi.
Mzee amesimamishwa jobs. Business is slowing down or worse, shutting down.
Kazi haiko sasa, lakini sasa ni kuzunguka tu nikitafuta polepole hata angalau kama naweza pata kama 20 nikule.
Mimi saa hii nipate 200. Naweza nunua chakula. Ukinunua sanitizer na ununue mask, sio pesa itakuwa imeisha.
My name is Eliud Kipchoge. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all my fellow Kenyans peace and safety during these difficult times as we fight the coronavirus pandemic. Take the necessary precautions to keep yourself and your family safe. To my fellow athletes, please train in isolation and take necessary precautions. We shall overcome this pandemic. May God bless you and God bless Kenya.
East Africa is transforming. And so are we. We are now more diverse, more visual, more engaging. Grab a copy of the new East African. To subscribe, email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com or epaper@ke.nationmedia.com.
Welcome back to Your World, Your New Normal. And this morning, we've launched this show to just help you as you try to figure out how to fit in this world that's changing right in front of our eyes. Remember, we want to hear from you. What are you going through? What do you think of what we're discussing here? What would you like us to address? You can reach us on #NewNormal and also on our WhatsApp telephone. Now, we've heard from our correspondents in the region, but let's also hear from some of the experts who are with me. And I'm joined here in the studio by one of our health professionals who's joined us. She's Gadoni Mbogwa. She's a clinical psychologist from the Chiromo Lane Medical Center. Welcome to Your World.
Thank you, Joseph, for having me today.
Now, if this goes on for too long, we're losing it. And I know that's the world that you live in, helping us to, to keep up with our mental faculties and to stay focused. So, first of all, what is this pandemic doing to our mental health generally?
Wow. Let me begin by saying that's a very loaded question. But what we are seeing is, I like the word that you're using. It's a new normal. This is something that we have never seen before, never experienced before, and never anticipated. So to begin with, there is a physical isolation. Yeah, they are the people who are at home for the first time. You are in the presence of your family and your children, and that is completely new. We also have the people who are in isolation and the people who are in quarantine. That is causing a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress levels. And what is going to happen is that if this distress, these stress levels and anxiety, if they are not attended to properly, then the chances of people developing anxiety disorders and even depression are on the rise. Secondly, another thing that we are experiencing is there's a lot of stigma. I just watched, I was on Twitter the other day, and I came across this story about the burial that happened in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. That goes to tell you that the stigma where, individuals who are going to experience COVID and the caregivers, it's going to be on the rise if we don't do anything about this.
And for families such as that, the Sia family, these people haven't had an opportunity to actually even grieve.
Absolutely, or they didn't even have an opportunity to even come into contact to say their goodbyes, to this individual, and now they have to go in the hideout because they don't want to be in the public. So that's something that we really need to attend to at, right the here and now. Another thing we are seeing is that we already have individuals amongst us. Of course, you know that 1 in 4 people are likely to experience a mental illness. So the people with pre-existing mental illness are also at a very high risk of experiencing relapses due to the triggers that are around the environment.
The stress factors also going up.
Absolutely. And you don't even want to imagine what that looks like, because then the access to the medication, for example, or the access to mental health facilities is limited, due to the movement. That's not, sorry.
I'll pause you right there.
Uh-huh.
I'll come back to you because I want to switch on to something a little bit different and get your comment on it.
Right.
But first of all, I'm joined also from the comfort of her house by Dr. Sue Adongo. Dr. Adongo is a gynecologist. And good morning and welcome to Your World, Daktari.
Morning to you.
Daktari, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you and welcome. Thank you for sparing the time to speak to us. First of all, let me start with the pretty obvious. A gynecologist and coronavirus, what's the connection?
That's an interesting ask, because actually we've been having more and more cases of women who are testing positive when they're pregnant, that they are coming to be able to now come together with the infectious disease specialists and be able to take care of both mother and baby in utero, even with the diagnosis of coronavirus. So it's a new area for us. We are working it out as we go along and borrowing quite a few things from the West, as well as we're coming up with our own data and guidelines on how to manage these patients.
Okay, Dr. I'll pause you there for a moment as I cross back to Walter Musije in Kampala. Walter, if you can hear me, we're discussing mental health. To what extent is this issue being featured or addressed in Uganda? People who are locked up in their homes with very little restricted movement. Is this an issue that's being spoken about?
Yeah, indeed, Joseph. That is an issue that is, critically being looked at here in Uganda. Specifically starting with the families of the confirmed cases and those people who have been under quarantine. Now, this does not only stop there, but it cuts across, because a pandemic of such a nature and what has come along with it, the side effects, is something really new to most of the Ugandans who are middle-aged people. But of course, the fear that comes with the disease, and of course all the information that comes at them at one time, including misinformation, by the way, is the reason why the Ministry of Health also set up a committee of health specialists who are going to handle mental issues for anybody who requires help. And of course, this has a team of counselors and experts from our own Butabika Hospital, which is the national referral for mental health issues. And we had an engagement with a patient who is currently under treatment, and she said she was really taken by shock, first of all, to have positive results, but then she says this is something really new, and it's a new disease. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know what to do next, and she was just thrown into the hospital. And she said for a long time she struggled to actually accept that this is the condition that I'm in now, and I'll probably have to heed to instructions being given to me by the doctors. But I can say that the committee is up in place, and the contacts have been made available for anybody from anywhere in the country who may need help in understanding what this disease is, and of course if they need counseling of the sort.
Walter, thank you. Stay with us. Back in the studio to Gadoni, you talked about some of the effects of people who have been isolated in their homes, whose movements have been restricted, having to spend quite a lot of time in very intimate spaces. What are the signs and symptoms that can begin to show us things are not okay, or maybe someone is going through something? What might we be able to look out for, or what might we see in this kind of homes or environments?
So, number one, if there's a change in sleep patterns, if you have high levels of stress or high levels of anxiety, then you'll find that maybe you can't really sleep well. But on the flip side, there are people who are going to sleep for longer than normal. There's also an increase of irritability, so that leads also to conflicts, a lot of conflicts happening within the home setup. And I feel it's important to mention that the change in eating patterns. So usually when you're stressed a lot, it's either you don't eat or you get into binge eating. So because your mind is not engaged in any level of productivity, you'll find that people are eating more than usual. Maybe that is also comes with the panic. Initially people tried to stock a lot of stuff in the house, but then you find that now, you're clearing a lot of that stock. There is also change in moods can also be seen within the family unit, and trying to get to have the conversations on what is going on. And remember, culturally, we're in a space where men are not very, expressive. We are also in a space where we look at men as people who go out to fend for their family.
Now they're staying in.
And now they're staying in. Now, for the first time, we must have this conversation. Where is bread, going to come from?
So even potential for conflict, possibly even violence?
Absolutely. And then the routine, there has been a complete disruption in the routine of the family. The kids are at home. Usually the mind of a child is only operates at optimal when there is structure. So you go to school in the morning, you come in the evening, and even the parents are used to that kind of structure. Now the kids are there. You're going to allow them to play, but until what time? For the first time, parents actually have to sit down and start understanding, so this is what my child does. This is what education means. This is what trying to teach them means. And that is also, a complete new normal.
So we're being forced to also get into our children's world.
Our children's worlds. On one side, it's a good thing, but there is also a lot of anxiety, because remember, kids are also in a space where teacher is right. Yeah, so there is also that kind of conflict. And we don't have, because of the lack of information, a lot of parents don't even know how anxiety manifests in children in the first place, to be able to identify that this is anxiety and not this child just being a bad child. So I feel like that is one of the things that we need to help parents to be able to understand. Yes.
Thank you, Gadoni. Yeah. I'm going to keep you here until you share some tips to help me and people watching your world. Now, as an appreciation of the efforts of healthcare workers, different countries have been celebrating the brave, tiring, and dangerous work healthcare workers have to undertake to keep you safe. In Europe, they received a standing ovation for their efforts in this fight against the pandemic. Welcome back to Your World. Now, Daktari at home, Dr. Sue Adongo, if you can hear me, as you saw or maybe heard from there, people in Europe applauding the good work that health workers are doing in these very difficult circumstances. And I wonder first of all, are we seeing any of that here at home in Kenya?
Not necessarily to that extent. We haven't experienced that as well, but in our little ways, in our communities, in our families, and with our friends, we're getting a lot of appreciation, a lot of support. So I cannot honestly say that there has been no appreciation and there has been no support. So we're getting a lot of that from other quarters in personal ways. And we appreciate that because it keeps us going.
And now you're a gynecologist yourself, and I know pretty soon you may be called upon to help deliver a baby from a woman who's possibly COVID-19 positive. How are you preparing for that? First of all, mentally, what does that mean for you?
It's a daunting task, honestly, knowing full well that you're dealing with a highly infectious disease. And I would not be human if I did not say that there is some element of fear. being both a mother of two small children, you do not want to expose your family. But in the meantime, we are really keeping up to date with all the information that we have. We are going for endless trainings to prepare ourselves. And mentally, just telling yourself that, you swore an oath to save lives, because saving lives is our core business, it's our core mandate. And fighting together as healthcare workers, not just in Kenya, in Africa, in the world, we feel like we are now coming together to fight a common enemy. So it helps mentally to just prepare yourself and to tell yourself that this is where I am, this is where I'm at, and if not me, then who?
And now, Doctor, you're a doctor at our main referral hospital, the Kenyatta National Hospital. You have been set aside, or at least helped to prepare that you might have been in a situation where you're handling a woman, an expectant woman who is, who's tested positive. In a sense, this also says you have a government or authorities who are thinking not just of the living, but also the unborn, which is good news.
Yeah, that is good news. With time, as things continue to evolve, we have to continue to think outside the box. We don't only just focus on the people that we have, as we say, we focus on the unborn as well, on our children, on our infants, because it is affecting each and every sector of our population and of society.
Okay, Dr. stay with us. Let me come back to Gadon in a minute. Again, maybe first of all to that situation where doctors elsewhere outside the country in Europe are receiving this recognition, this applause from the authorities, but also from their own fellow citizens. What does that do to someone's mental state? People who work under a lot of pressure, but they see this kind of reaction.
It's very encouraging to see that. On the other hand, it's very unfortunate that it's taken this kind of a situation for people to realize the kind of work that health workers do, and also to realize that one of the ways that we can tackle this is through a multi-sectoral approach, and everybody plays an important part, including the community, which, like Daktari has said, it's not that we don't appreciate the health workers here. I don't feel like it's something that has been put as a priority, right from the government and even in the community. It's just now that people are beginning to appreciate some of those efforts. But that kind of appreciation and applause is very, very encouraging, but not enough to help the mental health workers.
We need more.
Yes, we need more, to deal with the mental health issues that they would have to deal with as a result, of this pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walter, back to you in Kampala. Have you and your fellow citizens been thanking, applauding your hardworking medical personnel?
Yeah, Joseph, sure. We, have seen people actually come up with a campaign before there was a total ban on public transportation. Some private cars were still, being allowed to move around the city, and there was a campaign on Twitter to help transport a medical worker. So people agreed to, transport these health workers to their places of work from wherever they stay, from within your area. So we saw, many people come up to actually volunteer and take these health workers until a total ban was placed on, even private cars. But of course, people are, contributing. Pharmacists are offering medicines. They are offering, facial masks. Some of the, little equipment that they can really contribute. And of course, this strengthens the spirit of the health workers. On Saturday, when they were discharging the first 3 patients who actually have recovered from COVID-19, the health workers were really excited and they were dancing away, and they said to them that was a landmark, and they appreciated the efforts by individuals who give them phone calls and tell them, we appreciate what you do, we are praying for you, and all these sorts of messages keep them running each and every day.
And finally, Walter, in this kind of situations, these really difficult, trying moments that we're in with the pandemic, people look to anything for a sign of hope and encouragement. And I noticed that your own president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has been leading, this campaign on this health crisis or this medical crisis. Has that helped? He's been very active. He's been doing push-ups. He's been speaking a lot. In other places, he's just a minister who's in charge of the campaign. So when you see your president jumping up doing push-ups, is that helpful?
Well, quite to lighten up the moods of the people, because, this condition really can stress up, quite a number of, the populace here and probably across the globe. But the president really to come up and speak every day gives hope when he updates the country on what is happening. People listen to him and people actually, feel that there is something that is being done. When we don't have new cases for about 3 consecutive days and he comes out to announce, and, the other day he stopped people from doing, exercises in public spaces because then they were not respecting things like social distancing. But then that's the video that you saw him trying to say that you can do exercises right in your home, in your home or in your own little setting, and the push-ups that he did. And of course, it later turned into a challenge where people are now, doing the push-ups in their houses, in their own spaces. But of course, really, that's, I think, a lighter side of everything, but the message goes down well to the population.
Walter Messages, thank you very much indeed for joining us from live from NTV Uganda in Kampala. We hope to speak to you in our later programs. Thank you very much indeed. Stay safe and social distance yourself, please, for us. Now, I want to introduce someone else. Kevin Keegan is someone who knows, then you told us men don't talk quite a lot. Now they have to open up. I'm doing a lot of the talking. So let's hear from Kevin Keegan, who joins us on the line. He is involved in men talking, helping men to talk or to open up. Kevin, first of all, what is your assessment of the current situation that we're in and how it's impacting on men? Okay, we're trying to find your audio. We'll come back to you in a minute. So as we wait for Kevin to connect, Gathoni, what are your tips in getting men to speak?
Wow, I think to begin with, at the top of the list is just to encourage people to be authentic about themselves. If you feel a certain kind of way, just speak it up, because I don't think we have any other time to have this discussion. So if the discussion within the home setup is what is bothering you, I feel it would be important for you as a man to be able to have that kind of conversation with your wife at that very moment, because postponing it just increases the anxiety. But it's not easy, though. It's not easy because
we're possibly wired to say
right.
3 words in a conversation of 1 hour, and that's it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. But every family is at a different space. There are some people who are already in a family setup where they had time to actually form friendships before even the marriage. So that's definitely a different setup. It depends on how long you have been married. If you've been married for longer, it means that you have better ways to resolve conflicts. There are people who've just gotten into the marriage. And then if there are other pre-existing stressors within the family setup, that also contributes to somebody not being able to open up. And most importantly, the response. So if you tell me that you have anxiety and my response is negative, what that sends, the message that sends is that I cannot have this conversation because I'm just causing more anxiety. However, it's important to recognize that if you don't do that, then to you as a man, you're just going to end up building more emotion, more anxiety, more stressors, and at some point you will get to a saturation level.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Dongo, I don't know whether you're still with us and whether you can hear me. I know you're a doctor, your husband too, I know is a doctor, you've got children of your own. Now, some of us actually, some people even struggle with social distancing, but you have to leave some pretty risky environments to go back home to your children. Both of you are medical workers as a couple. How does that work out, the home scenario, when you get back home to your children?
It's actually a tricky affair because my children are at this stage where they do not know and understand the aspect of social distancing, and me coming home or their dad coming home is it's basically an event, so to speak. So we have come up with a way, our colleagues, because we live within the hospital compound, to try and change from our hospital scrubs, if you may, into our home outfits. So we try not to go to work with our home clothes. We go in our scrubs and then change before we get back to the house. That way, by the time we are getting into the house, then we are more or less safe. But it's still something that's always at the back of your mind. Have you carried something back home? It is a challenge, honestly speaking, especially having two medics in the house.
How stressful is your work environment at the moment?
Well, I don't know if I would use the word stressful. I would go more for challenging. It's challenging because you have to care for yourself. You also have to look at other health workers around you, all cadres of staff, all the way from the top up to the bottom. So everyone cannot just operate on their own. You have to operate being mindful of others, at the same time trying your best to help your patient. So we're finding it a bit difficult. There's a lot of thought process that goes into this. So we have to look for other ways to cope with what is going on, depending on the different work days that we have.
Thank you, Dr. Stay with us. Now, in this fight to combat the pandemic, we aim to highlight the state of mental health of first responders. Now, these are the emergency response units and healthcare workers who have to deal with infected people and the people in quarantine and isolation. But there are also the people who seem to have been neglected, such as this case.
Our mental health has not been taken into consideration at all. This is so not done because the thing is, we have already tested negative for this. It's not our fault that people who didn't self-isolate when they were asked to, that we bear the consequences of all of this. It's taking a toll on our mental health. If we wouldn't be affected by the virus, for sure we will get so many panic attacks. I have had 4 panic attacks in the last 2 hours.
So the backstory here is a Kenyan student from Germany landed in Kenya and was forced into self-paid quarantine. And she highlights her living conditions and that the authorities don't cater for them or for their mental health, that is, in quarantine conditions. I wonder, what are your thoughts on this? And maybe let me bring that to Gadoni. That kind of situation might be really difficult.
Even just rewatching that again is very difficult. I feel that as a country we have taken a lot of measures and precaution and focused on the physical health, forgetting that mental health is as important as that. And this is exactly what we are talking about. The emerging of other issues are going to start, coming up. Like the way she's saying, I've started getting panic attacks. I've gotten 3 panic attacks today. So specifically for the people who are in isolation and the people in quarantine, these are people who need access to therapists or counselors on a daily, to be able to talk to them, to be able to help alleviate their anxiety, as well as encouraging them to have the communication, because they have been isolated from their families as well. So just that encouragement for them to keep talking to their families, and also have structures put in place that are in black and white. If you're able to explain to somebody you're going to be in this place for this period of time, and after this point, you'll go through another test and then you can go home. Your mind kind of, is already prepared for
so
that.
the importance of really sharing information.
Yes, and also following up, you know, in that information. But this is a case where they almost feel that they were forgotten at the quarantine space, or they're being punished because other people refuse to do the self-quarantine themselves.
And talking about panic attacks, I have a friend whose wife suddenly experienced this. She can't breathe, not because she was unwell, but just she's just walking around saying, I can't breathe. I'm you know, really struggling, and yet physically there is nothing wrong with her.
Yes.
How do you handle this kind of panic attacks that come out of anxiety?
Wow. First of all, the first thing is to be aware that you're having a panic attack, because if you don't know what's going on with your body, that just sends more distress, you know, into your body. So it's not uncommon to experience a panic attack given a situation that is too much for you, either physically or mentally. The first thing is to try and be able to calm yourself down, be in a safe space. If there is a possibility of somebody being next to you, that's an added advantage. But if you're on your own, you can try and practice breathing techniques that are usually taught by a therapist, but you can have access to any of those techniques, you know, via YouTube or Google, whereby you take a deep breath through your nose, hold your breath for a period of time, and then release through your mouth. That kind of slows down the heart rate and the pressure, and you're able to calm down. However, if you still don't attend to what the stressor, the underlying stressor is all about, that is, you know, bound to come up again and again.
Okay, I'll come back to you for more tips, Gadoni. But now I think I'm finally connected to Kevin Keegan, away from Nairobi, social distancing, literally hundreds of miles away. Now, Kevin, you're a man, I'm a man, we need to talk. That's what I'm hearing. What's the problem with us men?
I think our society has lied to us, that generally men are not allowed to speak. That if you're going through something, you need to keep it to yourself. I don't know if it's clear that.
Keep going, we can hear you. You're live now, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So thank you. Just thinking about it, the things should be, it's basically that men should figure out things and they're not allowed to talk or express themselves on how they feel. And I think that has affected many men because they don't get to open up and speak at all. Okay? So I think one biggest problem we have is the society that we've lived in, that we've grown up in, where we've never seen our dad express themselves in a way that would compromise their manhood. Okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Kevin, but I'd like you to also address the issue of the situation we're in with the coronavirus pandemic. What is that doing to men generally?
Yeah, because thinking about this corona and the incidents that it's causing on men, basically because men are usually the people who go out. They're wired to go out and find food for their families. They're wired to figure out things. They're wired to sort out problems at home. And this is a situation where it has forced them to be in the house most of the time because there's lockdowns. They have to be home early. And thinking about it, a man can be stressed at this particular time and doesn't have an outlet where they can share whatever they are going through. They don't have a place where, or people they can congregate with and just say, this is what I'm going through at this point. Because they feel when I speak out, people will look at me as a weak man. When I speak and say I'm going through something, people will look at me in a weird way and it will compromise my manhood. The society.
I hear you loud and clear, Kevin. Let me pause you right there because we've got an example right here. You know, for those currently in quarantine, frustrations have grown even more. Example of this man who takes out his frustrations on a vehicle, which results in an injury, actually a broken ankle. Take a look.
God. Ai, inauma. Nasikia uchungu. Hey. Sasa medication ya Kenya iko wapi? You isolate us here. I just get ni kama vile unafanya exercise. You can break your fracture, you can have a fracture.
Unahitaji kitu kingine. She's a medical officer.
So clearly, stress levels really high up. Gadoni, this is one for you.
Yes. That is as a result, possibly because of a lot of pent-up emotions, pent-up stress levels. But usually there is no really one thing that can define what is causing you, that level of stress. But Joseph, can you imagine the state of that man's mind to actually get to a point of hitting the car over and over again to a point of breaking your ankle? It must, he was in a totally different space, and I think it maybe took the pain that he felt for him to come out and just realize what exactly is doing. Now, it is maybe the pandemic that is going on. The fear is causing more anxiety. Let's just take time to recognize the fact that this is not going to be a short-term disruption. This is going to really affect us for a very long period of time. People have been laid off from work. People have been forced to take leave. Jobs have closed down. There are curfews. People who depend on like daily bread, like going out there to fend for your family, and all those are things that you somehow need to conceptualize, understand, and find a solution, there and then. It's hard for every single person, not just for men. It's just that men, it's harder because they have lesser channels of expressing themselves as opposed to women who can easily, pick up the phone and just rant, and, that kind of, there's an outlet for it.
And that's something I want to take back to Kevin. If you can still hear me, we just played that, you may not have seen it, that little clip of the man who took out his frustrations on his car and ended up seriously injured. What are your tips? You work a lot with men and encouraging men to talk. What are your tips for how men can speak out?
I think one of the things that has worked so far is because I noticed recently going to the gym. That's where many men speak out. Okay, because they find one common goal to do together, and they end up speaking more than expected. Okay, because they'll tell you their problems. One is I think the gym has been of help to men and even myself. The other bit is now looking for people that you can trust, having a surrounding of people that you can trust, that they can always, when you need something, when you need to speak to someone, they are there for you, that they are a call away, okay? And they've opened up their doors for you. Because many times we don't have that, and we don't allow people to do that for us, and just to hear. Because again, if I know that if we share a problem with people that you trust, they're able to come up with a solution, and they'll not judge you for that. Because probably whatever you share, they would have gone through it, okay? And they probably have a solution. And by you keeping quiet, you're not sorting out anything, and at the end of it, you're being stressed, and you're dying from the inside. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, Kevin, before I let you go briefly, you talk about gyms. Gyms are closed now because they're a potential dangerous area. You say you go to the gym to release your stress. So who are you talking to yourself, Kevin, when things are thick?
Now I have friends, close friends, who will always check up on me, and they'll always know, because when you have friends and you have a common goal, they'll always know if something is wrong, okay? So and they've opened up those doors. So my close friends are the people who I run to all the time. When I'm in need, because at this time I can't go to the gym, so there are people who are close to me who are always there to hear me. And if it goes to an extent where they can't sort out the situation, or they feel it needs more help, I have someone who I go to and I can call, or rather I call them and say, this is what is happening. So there's professional help, and there's also now friends.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning, Kevin. We appreciate that. Now, let me come to you, Dr. Adongo. You're a medical doctor. Your husband is also a doctor, but none of you work in mental health. How do you help one another's mental health?
One of the things we do is we have a quite strong social support, whereby we stay connected to other people. So we have a lot of Zoom calls with our friends outside the medical fraternity, of course, and family. We've also come up with programs where we exercise together. Sometimes if we get some time, it helps. And never underestimate the power of adequate sleep. Very important.
And also, Dr. There are people listening to us, maybe a young couple expecting to have their child in this current environment. Have you got any tips to share to expectant mothers or couples expecting a baby in terms of keeping safe and going that extra mile to ensure that even their delivery will also be safe?
Okay, so far we have discovered that there is no increased rate of infection for the pregnant women, but notwithstanding, we still advise to carry on with the measures that have been advised: the social distancing, the hygiene, and to keep on with a healthy and balanced diet to protect their mental health as well. We are trying to come up with ways of telemedicine where we can still be able to talk to women with uncomplicated pregnancies and advise them and be there for them. And then we've made provision for those who have complications are able to still come to the hospital, even as we maintain strict measures to prevent infection.
So, and if someone does unfortunately come to the hospital pregnant and positive for COVID-19, what happens?
If they're pregnant and positive, then they are isolated away from the rest, but the care still continues because we do not treat diseases, we treat human beings. So the care will still continue. We'll even be more vigilant, monitoring the pregnancy, so to speak, and monitoring the progression of the disease. So we isolate them away from other patients, but we still manage their pregnancy as usual.
Okay, Dr. Adongo, thank you very much indeed. Do stay with us. And now we're looking for different ways to relieve stress and anxiety caused by this pandemic. A number of funny, creative videos have surfaced online, but this one caught my eye. The king of parodies, Chris Mann, released a cover of the song Hello by Adele, and he depicts the reality of staying home for quarantine purposes due to the coronavirus.
Hello, it's me. I'm in California dreaming about going out to eat just a burger with cheese or a shaken margarita, baby back ribs from Chili's. Hello, can you hear me? I am shouting out to neighbors who I used to like to see when we were outside and free. Is there something else to watch besides the news and Finding Dory? The social distance between us, and I'm freaking out. From the inside, it's just me and myself and I, and a stay-home order that's breaking my heart, but it's clearly what we should have done from the start. Hello from Corona Love.
Hello from the studios of NTV on Your World. Hello, Gathoni. What do you think of this? Does it help?
For me, the most important thing is normally to always remain authentic to yourself. I mean, obviously having a light moment is really helpful if you get an opportunity to sing, to dance. But whereas you're recording it to entertain other people and it will provide that feature, it's also important that you look within yourself. Are you being able to deal with the anxiety or the stress that is going on within you? Because if you don't do that, then even after all the entertainment, you still remain lonely and empty, you know, inside of you. So what you're displaying on the screen and how you are living your life, they have to be in sync at any one particular moment. Yeah.
Dr. Adongo, from the comfort of your home, you may have seen or come across that clip. Is it helpful?
It's interesting to watch. I can't really say, I can't really use the word helpful. Probably just interesting to see how different people are coping.
How do you cope, Daktari? Do you sing along as in those words to try and keep up and stay true to yourself?
Singing along in the words, maybe not. You know, in a mask, probably not. But for me personally, I write a lot. I have a blog that helps me to decompress. So I write a lot about the experiences that I go through, that my colleagues go through. So it is one of the ways that I decompress.
Okay, and Gathoni, you're a therapist, you're a psychologist. What about your own healing and mental health? How do you deal with your own pressures?
Oh, wow. This actually reminds me of the first time that I had to go to work after the lockdown. You know, truthfully speaking, the levels of anxiety, it was crazy. You know, they were really high. And going back home, it was such a scary scenario because while the kids came running, I was busy telling them, you know, don't touch me, let me just take a shower first. And that made me realize what is going on within me and how, you know, I'm transferring that to my family. So one of the ways that I used to cope is to try and compartmentalize stuff. So when I'm at home, I try to be fully present at home. When I'm doing my work, being a therapist, I try my best to actually just to be present in that moment. What works for me, I always journal. I've been journaling a lot about everything. The other day, I just had butterflies in my stomach like 2 days ago, and I just wrote like 2 lines. I'm like, I have butterflies in my stomach and I don't really know what this is about, but God, whatever it is, just give me the strength, you know, to deal with it. Music is something that I'm now doing. I never really used to love music. I just used to love quiet, and, you know, I'm reading as well. Yeah, I genuinely can't really say that I'm exercising, but I try as much as I can to take walks. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Now, as we discuss mental health issues, please note that the CS himself has had his life turned around by this pandemic, and that must have had quite an effect on his personal and professional life. But despite being in the front line in the fight against the virus, he can still afford to make a dire situation light. He took Eric Omondi's joke quite well.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. I'll try very hard not to do it Eric Omondi style.
And hey, if you have no idea what we're talking about, here is Eric Omondi himself.
We had a patient who arrived in the country on the 8th of March at 9:30. The patient's name is Kevin Otieno Onyago Oro. Kevin traveled from America, United States, Dallas, Texas, through Rwanda, through Djibouti, through Guinea-Bissau, and finally to JKIA Nairobi. And as we have told you severally, that when you are asked by health officials to self-quarantine. You need to take it seriously. In 48 hours, we managed to track Kevin Otieno Oro's contacts. And ladies and gentlemen, they are all here.
Surely, Recommandi. Well, we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we have more for you in your world, which is changing right here in the studio. And here's what you've been saying to us via our hashtag New Normal. Now, Wakenya wakiambiwa, let me see what, get closer to this. Wakenya wakiambiwa wafungiwe wiki moja, then things will be back to normal after wanateta. I think it's easy for people to fight hunger than a strange, non-curable disease. That's a comment from Matthew. Here's another one from Albert Carlos. You say, yeah, M7, that's President Museveni, is working round the clock to protect his people. Congratulations. Thank you, Albert, for that. And moving on, here's another one again from Michael Dreads. It says, is Uganda conducting more tests than Kenya? Do they have more kits than Kenya? There's a question there from Michael's. And another one here from Jeremy Kilosh. We shall overcome. Aijuae kesho ni Mungu. Kweli kabisa, aijuae kesho ni Mungu peke yake. And moving on, yes, we've got Namwanja here, Junior 254. No money, no friends, no going to Motura. So terrible. Terrible indeed. Moving on to General Bazazi. There is too much time at hand behind doors. The main challenge has become how to make these hours account for creativity. How many times can you play with your children? How many times can you learn to cook that chapati? That's what Generally Bazazi is really worried about. Here's another one from Siago who's saying, it's actually worse for those with anxiety disorders. The hashtag New Normal brings up the fear of the unknown, plus a lot of other issues that trigger anxiety. Thank you so much for those comments. Keep them coming in. Our hashtag to reach us on is New Normal. You can also reach us on our normal WhatsApp line. We'll be back.
When you're facing stubborn stains, you're always in a fierce fight. Clean Soft kicks out stains. Kimateki.
Credit to you if you stay at home. If you must shop online, use your NCBA credit card. Stay home. Stay safe. Easter calls upon us to sacrifice. Help a brother or a sister this Easter season to buy food by sharing your Bonga points with them. Remember to share your story or video of why you chose to help a fellow Kenyan using Bonga points. Tag us or post on our FB page NTV Kenya, Twitter page at NTV Kenya, Instagram at NTV Kenya, SMS 20686 or our WhatsApp number 0745 925 002.
My name is Eliud Kipchoge. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all my fellow Kenyans peace and safety during these difficult times as we fight the coronavirus pandemic. Take the necessary precautions to keep yourself and your family safe. To my fellow athletes, please train in isolation and take necessary precautions. We shall overcome this pandemic. May God bless you and God bless Kenya.
In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, life is increasingly becoming tough.
Njaa ndio itatuua wengine, hata si corona.
Nilitoka kazi, kapata landlord amenikatia mlango.
Massive job losses.
tumesimamishwa kazi.
Mzee amesimamishwa jobs, business is slowing down or worse, shutting down.
Kazi haiko sasa, lakini sasa ni kuzunguka tu nikitafuta polepole, hata angalau kama naweza pata kama 20 ni kule.
Mimi saa hii nipate 200, naweza nunua chakula. Ukinunua sanitizer na ununue mask, sio pesa itakuwa imeisha.
Economies are faltering, the skies are empty, borders are closed, the streets are deserted, schools have been halted, and what was referred to as work has everyone staying at home and figuring out how to make it work. We are all at risk, and the health of your neighbor is not only dependent on you, but your life or death could also be in their hands. On Wednesday, 15th April 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum on NTV from 7 p.m. It shall take a peek into how COVID-19 has changed the world, the family, the individual, and life as we all have known it.
This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the globe. But I don't believe that it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome.
Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Welcome back to Your World on NTV. We're looking at how your world is changing. What's your new normal? How is it affecting you? What's going on in your environment, at home, with family? And we're sharing some tips from not just you, but people from around East Africa and elsewhere in the world. Now, we asked you to send us video of what you're doing to keep yourself busy during this period. And your contributions, I must say, are truly amazing.
Si tunaondoka, gari inaondoka. Gari inaondoka. Dereva, naitwa dereva. Gari inaondoka. Akaya atakuja na gari nyingine, gari imejaa. Haya, gari inaondoka. Ngoja. So take it easy.
Sorry, I just putting my car in parking so that I can speak to you. Gosh, the kind of things that people, it's a very, very, very creative. Gadoni, people are really creative. It's a creative country, this is.
Yeah, some people are definitely taking this better, than others.
Dr. Dongo, you have fully grown men driving stationary cars in the middle of their living rooms. What else have you come across? These are really challenging times.
Yeah, yes, indeed. You have to be creative, to just get by. Do whatever, whatever makes you get through the day, so to speak.
Thank you, Daktari. I hope they are not forcing you to build two-story buildings with the children in the home. Now, the last hour, we've been discussing the effects of a corona pandemic on mental state. Now, Jerry is one of those affected, living in a house with 3 siblings, 2 parents, and 2 children, a total of 7 people in one house. Now, how does she deal with this while still battling with depression and bipolar? How does Njeri cope?
My name is Njeri, and I live here in Otaya, Nyeri, with my mom, my 4 siblings, my 2 kids. Part of the reason why we are here is, because of the whole COVID-19 situation. So a lot of 3 of us actually came home from different parts of the country. That was slightly before it just blew up. So it was, schools were closed, so we came home. Jobs got slower, we came home. Yeah, it has been quite an adjustment from just being mom and 2 of her kids in the house to all her 5 kids plus grandchildren in the same house. It's been a bit of an adjustment. It's quite, as you can tell, there's a lot of us crammed in a very small space. But I think it's also a good thing, because then we're all here and we're not worrying about each other. You know, no one, we know where everyone is at all the time. We're not worried about where they are. As it is right now, all 4 of us are out of a job, and the last one just came home from school. So there's also, you know, a bit of a strain in that area, because we are all used to being very busy, very active, and now we're in the house all staring at each other wondering, okay, so now what do we do? I have bipolar disorder, which was diagnosed in 2010, and that in itself is, well, it takes a lot of work, you know, a lot of work within work for myself, and a lot of work even for my support system to make sure that I don't go off the deep end, so to speak. And for someone like me living with this condition, then you have to be really keen on the triggers. People are triggered by different things: stress, financial constraints, bad news. So as you can imagine, this time is really trying, because the news is depressing. And then there's you and your entire family in a small confined space. A lot of emotions going around, so it's a balancing act. For me, I just try as much as possible to maintain a routine. Sometimes it comes off as selfish, because if my plan says take a nap between 2 and 4, then I'll take a nap between 2 and 4. It doesn't matter if somebody else needs something, because then again, everybody else can fetch what they need. So I keep myself as occupied as I can, which isn't difficult when you have laundry to do every day and you have a child to take care of. So I will take care of my chores in the morning, and in the afternoon I'll try to do a bit of reading, and then, you know, play with the kids. I will avoid the news as much as possible. I just watch one bulletin in a day, and that's usually 9 p.m. and that's it. I think this is a very good time to start something new. If you're home and you're stuck and you've never tried something, you know, it's a good time to start something new. Start knitting, read, write. I have space now. I think I'm actually considering gardening, which I hope my mom doesn't hear me say this, but I totally hate. But the space is here, the opportunity is here, the time is there. And, you know, just a bit of gardening, plant some greens, you know, maybe start a small kitchen garden. So yeah, start something new. If you've always wanted to learn something, and especially if you have access to the internet, this is the time, I think, to literally just immerse yourself in something new.
That's Njeri's story. And Gadoni, what's your reaction to this, and how Njeri is managing to manage her own situation?
Well, first of all, Njeri, if you're watching this, from me to you, I just want to say thank you, and I really, really appreciate you for your courage and your ability just, you know, to talk about this. That message has sent and is going to help a lot of other people who are either have tested positive, or a lot of other people who are anxious and they don't know how their life is going to look like. I love that Njeri has a very, very high level of self-awareness. She actually has what we call emotional insight. She's aware of her underlying condition, the bipolar. She's taking her medication. She's aware that she's positive, so she's also taking measures to protect herself and her family members. And I love that she's within a family setup. So, you know, family support is one of the best things that could happen to individuals, especially in this space of isolation. So I'm so happy that at least she's in that space. What I really take from that particular clip, and I hope that is something that we can all look into, is the fact that she has not let her situation define her. Njeri is still looking at herself as an individual first, meaning that she has set a routine for herself, and she's going to follow that routine regardless of what other people think about it. And in the compartments of washing clothes, reading, thinking of gardening, time to take care of her kids, that actually brings a level of normalcy within her life. And that also brings a level of normalcy within the family setup, because they can see that she's functioning well. And I hope that within our own setups, we can also be able to adapt to a routine. And especially if you have a pre-existing mental illness, like what Njeri has shared, anything can trigger you. So be aware of that. Try as much as possible to minimize the consumption of media, because that actually increases anxiety.
Okay.
You can take time, obviously, to give yourself an update, but look for reliable sources to do that. Take your medication and be in touch with your therapist to manage that.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And briefly, back to you, Dr. Sue Adongo. Briefly, just any tips on coping in the current situation that we're all in?
I like what Gadoni had said, and I think I would just emphasize on that. Having a strong social support, staying connected to people, even virtually, and of course, using this time to learn a new skill or to connect with the members of your household, to form deeper connections, of course, and also not to spend so much time on COVID news, so to speak, from morning to evening, looking up updates, seeing the mortalities in other countries. Sometimes it can cause anxiety and get to you. It's important to keep informed, but it's also important to take a break from it as well, and to interact with other things around you. Learn an instrument, learn a recipe, do something different. I think after this, we will be much better for it. There's this new thing that's going around where people are writing down their isolation goals. So I think it's something to adopt.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Dongo, for joining us this morning. We hope we can host you again in our forthcoming programs. Now, for the past week, we've been running polls on social media, asking you a variety of questions. Each day, we'll pick at least one poll. Your responses are just unbelievable, I must say. Some I dare not even mention on air. But let's start with the first poll. What do you miss the most during this stay-at-home period? And the polls say, being outdoors. Someone else here, Ken Wafula, I miss nothing. That option too. And then someone is saying, really? We also have Janet Jams saying church. Yeah, indeed. I miss football. I love football. Dalton, EPL. Well, when will that come back? And then employed degree nurses, you say, yeah, I miss football on the screens. It's not the same thing as playing it inside your house. Josephine Mpango, really? You miss Mpango Wakando? I hope you mean something else. Legend 360, we miss our loved ones, yes, but we have to stay away at home to save them and our own lives. And then this guy is being quite real. Tayari, I miss a job with income. Those are some of your comments. I have left out those ones that I am not maybe able to read out live on there. Now then, the first line of defense from contracting the coronavirus is washing your hands. These facts should help you clarify why. Did you know that 1 in 5 people do not wash their hands? That only 3 out of 10 people who wash their hands use soap. 4 out of 10 people do not wash their hands after sneezing, coughing, or blowing their nose. Now, this is according to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Now, to break it down further, this is how the different genders perform in the hand washing department. the statistics for men and women. 15% of men, if I can switch on to my other screen, do not wash their hands, while 7% of women do not wash their hands. And then also 50%, that's half of the men, wash their hands with soap and water, as compared to 78% of women who use soap and water. Another fact, I think that's it. You get the point. It's wash your hands, wash them thoroughly, use soap at all times. Now, moving on. Did you know this? Let me leave you with this bit of fun music.
I have a handle. I have a soap. Wash, 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 wash. I have a soap. I have a handle. Wash, 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 wash. Clean hand, clean hand.
Yes, and other than running nose, the Jehovah Shalom a cappella group have been able to pass the message on to how to keep yourself safe from the coronavirus using the most effective, but I must say, hilarious song.
Coronavirus, it is a virus very pandemic, very contagious, very contagious. Let us be very careful. It has a symptoms, running in nose, sore throat, cough and fever. It has a symptoms, running in nose, sore throat, cough and fever. Coronavirus, coronavirus, it is a virus very pandemic, very contagious, very contagious. Let us be very careful. Avoid the handshake, avoid the hugging, avoid the kissing. Wash your hands using a soap. Wash your hands using a sanitizer. Wash your hands using a soap. Wash your hands using a sanitizer.
Coronavirus, wash your hands, daktari gadoni. We need to discuss this a little bit. So clearly, this message has got to be pushed by whichever means necessary. Absolutely. For people until it seems. What's your opinion on what you've seen?
Well, like I said, everybody is involved or has to be involved in one way or another. If it takes a song, a clip, or whatever it is, to help push the message for it to sink in, then so be it.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to go to India now. They're not singing, they're using drones. I don't need more of this. I see your eyes wide open. What's going on?
I'm wondering, is that to sanitize?
Yes, they're sanitizing.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. What do you think?
That's amazing. It's amazing. It's taking care of the community. So do whatever it is that you can.
We're still out with our fire trucks trying to clean, but they're taking the battle to the skies.
Imagine that. Yeah. Technology. I think we need to get to that level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Saudi municipality of Qasim region released images showing thermal drones being used to measure the body temperatures of shoppers in Buraid, north central Qasim region. Let's have a look. Dr. there's nowhere to hide in terms of sanitizing. All measures are welcome.
Yeah, clearly. I love that, being able to have the temperature of every individual taken. I think that's very important because that's like one of the alarming signs that there is definitely something wrong with you. Yeah.
And just before we go, I want to hear some of your general tips for people watching this show, Your World, on NTV, from wherever they are.
Right.
Just general tips about keeping your mental health, and just staying focused amidst all the chaos that's going on around us.
Generally, when it comes to mental health and mental wellness, there are 4 red flags that we always look at. And the first one is sleep. Be aware of sleep patterns. Of course, the fact that we've been at home, a lot of us we've disrupted that sleep-wake rhythm. Try as much as possible to have between 7 to 8 hours of sleep and not less. Secondly, if there is a change in eating patterns, that's also a red flag that there's something that is going on with you. So try to have meals as per normal or what is available, and healthy meals for that matter. Another thing to definitely keep on the lookout is the level of irritability, because we actually say that anger is a secondary emotion. It's just that it's what we can see now, but there is that underlying thing. So try and look for the underlying reason, whether it's the pandemic or any other issues, and deal with it. And change in bowel movements, believe it or not. If there's something that is going on within your body, actually, like before, like a big interview, or if you're nervous, that kind of feeling, then you'll find that some people will constipate, some people will have light stool. That's something that should alert you that there's already something that is beginning to happen within your body. Have your social connections in any way. It's actually amazing that we're in a better space now because we do have the internet. So, and there are all these mediums. Try every day to connect at least to 5 people. Talk to 5 people, people you've never spoken to, people you feel that you really need to speak to, whatever it takes. Just keep that social connection alive. And it's important that you reach out to a therapist. I know there are toll-free lines that are available. We as Chiromo Lanes are also conducting e-therapy and many other places. Just try as much as possible and reach out to a professional, however different this might seem from the norm, to talk about what is going on.
So seek help.
Seek help, seek professional help, because sometimes you can actually have a conversation with somebody who is already in a negative space, and that kind of eats into each other. And last but not least, always try to be aware of your thoughts. It all starts in the mind. Thoughts, action, behavior. A negative thought will prompt you to have a negative action,
so
and too many actions.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. Yeah, so be aware if you feel that you're having, maybe for example, suicidal ideations. That's a psychiatric emergency. You need to reach out to somebody ASAP.
Gadoni, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
we
Joseph.
will all stay positive. Now, your tweets are still coming in. I see a couple here. Come closer to Peter Joseph Washege. Staying in the house is not even the issue. Not knowing how long one will have to stay in the house causes great panic, which we've just been talking about here, converting the whole compound to Manyani maximum prison. Mr. Njoroge, I hope your house is not really a maximum prison. Another comment here from Edwin Mukwana. Exactly. We are struggling to catch up with life, but it's becoming too hot for us. Wow. Very hot indeed. And we have another comment here from Honorable Stanley Kiungu. You say, Happy Easter, my fellow countrymen and countrywomen. New normal, hashtag. We shall overcome graciously. And there's one more here from Mr. Andraza. For me, I find it hard to share what I'm going through because of trust. Not all who listen want to help. Some want stories to share. So I find it really hard to share, but I manage stress by physical activity like moving about, but I feel there is a need to talk to someone who will listen. Our hashtag New Normal for more of your comments. And Gathoni, as we approach the end, people are really responding to the conversation, and I think just very briefly, people who find it hard, that last comment there, find it hard to share or to, when you're with a therapist, there is an atmosphere of trust. But if it's just someone else who random, how do you address that trust issue? Very, very briefly.
Ideally, most people develop trust issue as a result of how they grew up, especially in their formative years, depending on whether they were able to gain that ability of space to trust another individual. So it starts from, at that level. But in the space that we are in, that way we are encouraging people, talk to somebody who is a professional, because in that case you are assured of confidentiality. However, if you cannot be able to do that, you can start by training yourself to share little information at a time. So that will help you know whether you can be able to trust this person or not. But journaling is one of the best ways, because
write it down,
you are expressing yourself.
Okay.
Through writing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gathoni. Quite some useful tips there on how we can all stay sober in this very challenging environment. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, so okay, you've been doing challenges on social media. You've seen them all. There's the Don't Rush Challenge, the Tissue Challenge, Utaweza Challenge, which I must say I do not have neither the hips nor waist for, so I'll dare not demonstrate it whether in public or private. And well, we thought, why not also create daily or weekly challenges to keep you busy? This is a segment we're calling In a Minute. So in a minute or even less, we challenge you to do the Museveni challenge. Now here's what it looks like before I try it out myself. But please, as you do it, be creative and have fun.
mambo ya ujinga utachunguza mahali in the compound. Watch.
That man is in his 70s, so let's see if I can beat Museveni challenge. I've got a red carpet like him, so I should be able to do at least 99 of this. Whew. Pray for me. Yes, continue counting. As I continue with this abnormal position on the floor of our studios at Nation Center, I'd like to thank all my guests who've been in the studio with me, those ones who've joined us on Skype, our correspondents from all over. Goodbye.
Basic protective measures as guided by the World Health Organization. Clean hands frequently with soap and clean water. Cover nose and mouth when coughing and sneezing with a